one of the criticisms of modern music production that we hear an awful lot of now is that these days everything sounds a little too clean and perfect and almost robotic, that music has no feel anymore, essentially. And to some extent I agree with this. The blame for this gets put on the kind of digital audio workstations that we use these days, but that's unfair. You know, it's about how you choose to use the technology. Musicians are intimidated by the fact that when they look at a DAW, they can see the grid, and you can see that the bass note doesn't quite perfectly line up with the kick drum. But when you listen to it, if it sounds fine, leave it. There's no point spending your whole life trying to be the best musician that you can possibly be, to then go into your DAW and chop up every single note and drag every note perfectly into time, which is what a lot of people would do at this stage that I'm at with producing this track. The human quality and the feel that you put in as a quality player is a really big part of what makes music magic. So what I'm saying is, don't chop the magic out. I've been guilty of this myself in the past. It is intimidating to look at a DAW, and when you zoom in real close, things don't appear to line. But if you put on an old Beatles record, an old Queen record, and if you could look at it in the way that we see music in a DAW now, and you zoomed in real close, things wouldn't line up perfectly, right? But that music, that's the holy grail. That's the magic that, you know, that we grew up listening to, that we love, right? We want to sound like that. We don't want to sound like robots. So the way that I try to approach this now is I try and get the best takes down I possibly can when I'm playing the music in, and then I'll get on with the mixing process. And if I hear a note that sounds out of time, I'll go in and check it, and if needs be, I'll take advantage of the modern recording technique. I'll chop that note and I'll move it so it sits nicely in time. But the point is that I'm still using my ears to do this. I'm using my ears to tell me that it sounds right, and I'm not allowing myself to be intimidated by perfection. This means perfection. I mean the bar lines. Here's a quick little thing I forgot to show you earlier when I chopped out that kick that sounded really lame. Okay, so it left me with 3 separate bits of audio here. This bit is like all the rest of the kick drums, and this is the kick that I copied and used to replace the lame sounding one. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to press multi-select and select all 3 of these sections of audio, and I'm going to press join. And what that's going to do is just join all those bits of audio together as one, right? So now on track 1 for my kicks, I have just one piece of audio. This makes absolutely no difference at all to the sound. There were no clicks where the kicks joined or anything like that. But if you have it as one piece of audio, it means that if you decide to move your project around at all, then you're moving, just moving one big long piece of audio. You're not sort of, because you might forget, you know, you might sort of leave a kick or 2 behind. To EQ the kick, I'm going to press on Effects and go into the channel strip. Now you see the channel strip is divided into 3 sections: expander, equalizer and compressor. This kick drum sound, I really don't think that I need to expand that, and this kind of EQ is not my strong point. I much prefer to use this kind of EQ from Neon Silicon make a fantastic free EQ, the LRC5. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select this particular nodule here, and I'm going to pinch so that when I drag this frequency, I get this kind of arc. If I just pinch it back down, or further up in fact, you'll see I get a narrower peak, and yes, reverse pinch, there we are, you see, and a much broader one. Okay, so I'm looking for quite a narrow peak here, and I'm just going to scoot along this frequency, see if I can find a little low boost just to give it a little bit more thump without boxiness. That seems quite nice around there. Obviously any changes I make to any of the individual sounds at this point, I'm just kind of guessing. I'm just looking for a really nice sound to mix, which I then may need to, when I hear something in the full mix later, may need to go and edit to make it sit better within the track. But at this point, I like to get great sounds to begin mixing with. Again, I'm wanting quite a sharp peak here, and I'm just going to see if I can get rid of that boxy sound. Now, if I can exaggerate the boxy sound first and then dip it out, there. Okay, so what we wanted to do is kind of make it punch more. And then here at this end, I'm looking to just add a little more click to it. There's already quite a lot of click to that sample, but you'll hear if I just move this along, probably find a place where it really, there, gives just that little bit more bite to help it go through the mix. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that for now. Now I want to add a little compression. Now this is a sample, so I'm not needing to use a compressor to even out those kick sounds. I just, again, want to use it to make it punch a little more. .1 is a fairly decent sort of standard ratio. I'm never quite sure about threshold. I've never said I was an expert at this. Let's see, let's just bring down the attack. I want a fast attack. And I think a long release. Oh yeah, maybe not quite so long as that. I'm guessing. Right, now we switch the compressor off. Just compare volumes. Give it a little tiny boost there. Okay, I'm happy with that for now. I've now been through each drum and cymbal one at a time, and I've EQ'd and I've compressed, and I've arrived at a sound I'm happy with for now to continue mixing with. And then I've been to my mixing desk, and I've set myself a nice volume level for each component part of the kit to get a nice drum balance for now. And you know, I don't worry too much about getting that too exact, because what I find is it sounds great as a drum kit, and then you start mixing in all the other instruments, and then you get an idea of what you need to change. But Oh, and what I wanted to mention about Auria Pro that I really like is the pan controls. I've panned some of the drums a bit left and a bit right to get a nice stereo picture of drums. And what's great about Auria Pro is that on the pan control, you get this little green coloration round the knob. It may just sound like a little thing, but you know, I wanted to work something into this video so I could say pan knob. I just like saying pan knob. But the green is, it just gives you a great instant visual indicator of where your pans are, and also it brightens up what is otherwise a very grey mixing desk. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to set myself up a subgroup of drums over here on this slightly different shade of gunmetal grey mixing desk. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what I mean by a subgroup, you're about to find out. We have 8 of them in Auria Pro. And if I go over here to my kick, we've got 2 little windows under where it says input. The bottom one, where actually it says output above that one, I am going to press subgroup 1. And I'm going to do that for all of my other drums. This channel here, by the way, that I'm not bothering with, which is currently muted, is the one that has if you recall, I had a delay on the snare in Rusemaker, which sounded great, but I wasn't sure that was going to sound fantastic in the mix. And so when I exported it as a mix down, I exported a snare without and one with. I'm not overly sure I'm keen on the one with, and to be honest, it's because of the delays on it, it's kind of difficult to get a nice EQ on it. So I'm thinking I'm either going to leave the snare without the delay, or I'll add the delay back in later. So I've now sent all of these drums to subgroup 1, which I'm going to label drums. But you didn't see that coming. Okay, and now if I press play, there, all my drums in one group. And now for some very positive news. I did indeed reach out to Crude Bytes about iSymphonic. I sent them a very polite message to say this AU is a bit oversimplistic and the interrupt audio is no longer working great. And they replied to me very quickly and very nicely, and they acknowledged this. And their explanation is that they've been keeping the AU deliberately very simple, because there's been a lot of changes recently to the AU's been in development, so they've kept it that way until things settle down. But they are in fact going to be progressing it, and we will see improvements soon. So that's fantastic, and it's wonderful to be able to reach out to a developer like that, just send them a message and ask them a question to get some reassurance and get a nice message back. You know, for me personally, I now feel that I didn't waste my money when I purchased that app. It's going to continue to be supported, and that's just magic. I'm ready now to add some reverb to my drums. If I come across here to the far right hand side of the mixing desk and press auxiliary effects, you'll see we have 6 slots for global effects. I'm going to go into the last one, because we tend to want to have reverb the last thing in the chain, and I'm going to click on Classic Verb, which is a very simple reverb that comes as standard with Auria Pro. The thing is if I decide to add any more effects, usually all other effects I would want to happen before reverb. Now, on this last strip here, under these auxiliary turn pots, we have these little buttons that will switch between auxiliary return 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. And you'll see, if you look at the channel strips, the send will change in number 2. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on 5 and 6, and then I'm going to go over here to where all my drums are, and I'm going to solo the snare as a starting point and turn up auxiliary 6, and there I have some reverb. This is just to get me started for now. I'm not going to put the kick through it, so hats, clap. Watch the not be any clap on this bit of the track. That'd be great, wouldn't it? I should have set up a better loop, a more appropriate loop, before doing this. I'll leave that soloed and see if it happens soon. There we are. We have a tom. Oh, some clap. Sounds quite nice. Bit more, I think. Right. These are not supposed to be perfect levels. These are just a general, just to get me started. And I don't think there's a crash on this part of the track, but that just gives you an... Oh, there we are. That sounded quite good. I didn't have any reverb on it, so add a bit. Oh, there we are. Okay, so that just gives you a general idea of how we do that. And of course, what we can do is we can... Oh, press play again. Have I got any solos on? I have. Press play again. And I can bring down the level of the whole reverb with this pot here. Unfortunately, I've pretty much reached a crisis point now with this recording. I've been unable to further it or the video I'm making for about half a day. I'm pretty much ready to tear my hair out. What's happening is that every time I add a plugin, a third-party plugin, as a send, everything just freezes up and Auria Pro ceases to work. And when I add something like Tone Stack or Jam Up as an insert to so I can like reamp my bass or my guitar playing, it doesn't do anything. That doesn't actually crash Auria Pro. It just doesn't affect the sound at all. It's like it's not there, but it is. And I've tried everything. I've tried every different approach to this I could possibly think of, and it's just not working. So I was like, I don't know what to do. But the light at the end of the tunnel is I had applied to be a beta tester for Auria Pro, and because there's a new version coming, and I've just been accepted. So I'm going to download that now, download the beta version, and hopefully we'll be able to progress things. Okay, we're now going to open up the beta version of Auria Pro, and let's see if this version is going to allow me to open up Tone Stack and dial in the kind of sound that I want for the low end of my bass. So I'm going to solo the first bass signal, the one from my neck pickup, the one that I want that low end sound from. And I'll go to Effects, and in the channel strip here from the Interapp Audio, I'm going to add Tone Stack, which should open up. It's opened up my modern country sound here. Let's just press play. Okay, that's totally not what we want. I have here a preset that I've saved for previous recordings, Jamie's neck pickup sound. Okay, now let's just press play on that. So what we have there is a very crushed, compressed, just low-end sound. Nothing in the higher frequencies. We're not worried about any definition on this sound or anything. We just want that solid, punchy low end. That'll become clear why later. The reason I like to work in an application like this is because while I feel I have certain areas of weakness from a production point of view, which I like to be honest about, I do have over 30 years experience of twiddling knobs on various amplifiers. So to work in this kind of app is like familiar territory for me. Now I'm not going to go into too much depth about what I'm doing in ToneStack because I feel that I've probably got a whole other video to go into much more detail about that stuff in me. But what I will just show you is I've got quite a lot of compression here. We really want this sound to punch through. I'm just going to take that threshold up a little bit. Just the tiniest. Yeah. And what it sounds like with the compression off. Much looser. Okay. Now, looking at the amplifier, you'll see all I've got here is compression, amp, and a speaker. Now if we look at the amplifier here, you'll see I'm not boosting the bass. It is a bass, right? If it's a decent bass, you don't need to boost the bass. And I've hardly got any gain because I don't want any drive on this at all. The mid-frequency controls are the most important thing here. The way this mid section works on this amp is I use this control to find the frequency that I want to boost or cut. So you see there, I've got some boost applied already. You see, you hear that it's just here. I'm boosting a nice solid area of that frequency that's going to help us punch through. I've got all the treble wound off, and that's it. That's all we need. That's the sound we're looking for. So we go back to Auria, and we can look at the second bass track. Right, so that is amazingly, fantastically brilliant. I've been able to use ToneStack in Auria Pro. So looking good for the beta version so far. Now we need to turn our attention to bass part number 2. Now from this part I want the high end, I want the definition, I want no lows, a little bit of dirt, but maybe not as much as I would normally use for this, you know, for this kind of track. So the problem I have is I can't use ToneStack a second time. I could if I printed this one and then I could close ToneStack and use it again in the second one. You can only use one instance of an app like ToneStack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use JamUp Pro for the other one, because if I do that, then I'm going to be able to compare the two sounds I have and maybe tweak them a little to get the blend just nice for this track before I sort of save anything as a finished file. So I'm going to go to bass number 2. I need to solo it for now, and in the channel strip here I'm going to go again to Intrap Audio, because both these bits of software are still Intrap Audio, unfortunately, and go to JamUp Pro. Right, now this is a preset, again, which I've made myself, which I've used many times. So let's just, there's no play button here in JamUp Pro for some reason. Let's just, there we go. So there, it sounds nasty, I know. But when you blend the two, it's real effective. Go to JamUp Pro again. Now, normally I do have quite a lot of overdrive on my sound, but for this particular track I don't think I need that, you know. So here in the preamp I'm using, I'm going to turn the drive down a little. And I'm going to bring the level up a little to compensate. So as you can see here, I've got all the bass end taken off. Treble is just more or less in the middle. I've added some presence. The blend is all the way over to the drive. And I've got some compression, and I've just used a very basic compressor, and because there isn't really a good one for bass in Jam Pro. And this is the front of the amp. I've got the transparency on and the turbo off. You can see where the settings are here. The gain, maybe. A little more gain. Bass all the way off. Treble, more or less flat. So let's see what it's like with a blend of those two things. Go to my mixer. Now, so there we have just the low end, and I just bring this in for definition. Now I'm going to guess that maybe about there is going to sit right in the track, but we'll see when I come to mix the whole thing. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button up here. It looks like two little faders, and I'm going to press on both these two faders, and now I can move them. If I decide that's the blend I want, they'll move as a group. So far the Auria Pro beta has been fantastic. I've been able to use Tone Stack and Jam Pro to get the bass sounds that I wanted. And after a bit of tweaking around and messing about and just getting just the right sound, I've mixed those down, and then I've been able to close Jam Pro and Tone Stack and then reuse Tone Stack for the chippy choppy guitar sound. I've been playing around with that, and I found this great funky filter sound. It sounds amazing, but I was just a little bit concerned it might not cut through in the track enough if I put too much effect on it. So what I've done is I've kept the sound, but I've also kept the clean guitar, and all I've put on the clean guitar is Rough Rider 3, which is fantastic and free and just came out yesterday, I think. And I've just sent a little bit of that to the reverb that I'm using for drums and strings, which is one of the which is the Fab Filter reverb. So with the blend of the two, I should be able to make it sit quite nicely in the track. At the moment, I've got the clean one panned just left of center, and the funky one quite far right. It seems to create a really nice spread. And what I've also done is I played around in Neo Soul keys, and there's a preset called Fusion Suitcase, and I messed around with that sound and just adjusted it slightly, and I came up with a sound I really liked. So I've mixed that down. So now I'm really close to getting all the sounds I want and a finished mix. So all I need to do now is to get a lead guitar sound. I wish that I could show you what I used in Tone Stack to get the lead guitar sound, because I thought it sounded great, but unfortunately the camera crapped out on me, so I can't show you what I filmed because apparently I wasn't filming. It may just be me who forgot to press record, perhaps. But if you come with me now, I'll show you what I used in ToneStack. The preset that I'm using in ToneStack is made up of 5 different things. And if I just play the guitar before, because everything in ToneStack is switched off at the moment, so the guitar just clean, and I'm using the second pickup from the bottom. I think we call that second position on a Stratty type guitar, because I really like that kind of Stratty quack sound for this sort of a lead. Right, so I'm going to go to the amplifier first, switch that on. Now I've got, you'll see the gain is quite high, the lows are cut, and the top is boosted, the tremolo stuff is off, the volume is at number 6, and that's giving me kind of a bluesy lead kind of a sound. Bit of a grit to it, you know. But not too much, because for this kind of a track we don't want like loads and loads of overdrive. But what I did want was a little bit more bite to help it cut through the track. So before the amp I added the black Moore pedal, which has 2 voicings, smoke and burn. So no idea who that's modelled on. But this is basically a treble booster pedal which is designed to boost the top end of the amp and drive it harder. I've got the dirt wound most of the way off because, like I said, we don't want more overdrive, but we do want more poke. So I'll switch that on. Okay, and moving along. Now, this is not the speaker cabinet I normally use in ToneStack, but I just had a flick through a bunch, you know, just trying a few things out, and this one just kind of added a bit of something. It just, I don't know, it just brings this particular sound to life. I'm liking that. Now, you'll see next I have an echo pedal in the chain, but first thing I added was reverb. Now this is going to sound like there's too much reverb. And strictly, there is, but it worked in the track, so, but to my ears it worked, so I left it. And then I just wanted to thicken the sound up a little bit, so I brought in this delay and I set it so that, oh, what I did actually was I set the speed of the, I set the BPM in the preset to the same as the track, and you'll hear there's quite a lot of repeats, but the volume on them dips quite quickly, and so it just thickens up that sound. Now, really, to me, playing that right now on its own, it sounds like that would all be a bit much. But like I say, it seems to sit nicely in the track. So have a listen to the track. I'm gonna post the full finished track after this video, and check it out. See what you think. I've now arrived at a point where I've got a real audio WAV file for every instrument involved in this track, and I'm ready to mix. I've already, if I go over to the desk here, I've already kind of got a rough mix here. I'm just going to show you what I have. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instruments are drums, and all of those are being sent to this subgroup here. So I can move the drums up and down with one fader, and then I've grouped together the 2 bass sounds so I can move them together, and the clean guitar and the affected guitar are also in a group. Here's neo soul keys, and we've got strings and lead guitar, and that's it. That's all there is in this track, and it should be a fairly easy track to mix because there's a limited amount of instruments, and it's not a heavy track. It's quite sort of light. There's plenty of space in it, and each instrument I've been careful to give it its own frequency, its own space as I've gone along recording it. So if I just turn it up a bit, you can hear it's quite close already. It just needs a little fine tuning. What I do is I kind of get a rough mix, something that's quite close, and then I revisit the pans. The pans are just, I don't have a kind of set way to do it. I'm just kind of using them to try and help sit an instrument into a space where it's not clashing with anything, where it can be heard. I don't claim to be an expert producer, an expert mixing dude. I just play with it until it's right to my ears. I think this is really pretty close now, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spend a little more time mixing, and then I'm going to export the track as a finished WAV, and we'll have a look at some mastering. For mastering on the iPad, I use a great app by Positive Grid called Final Touch. When the app opens up, I go to the music icon top left hand corner, and I need to import this track from my Dropbox. So select Dropbox from the list. But what I don't like about this app is that when I go to Dropbox here, nothing is in alphabetical order, and there's a lot in my Dropbox. So I'm looking through everything for ages sometimes, you know. Here we go. Pond Life Groove, there we are, there's the track. Now while this uploads, I'm just going to say this. I'm not a mastering engineer, and I've mentioned before in this video that from a production point of view, I do feel I have some areas of weakness, and mastering is definitely my weakest area, but I do have some bits of advice to offer because I have managed to do a pretty decent job of mastering my own tracks with some trial and error. Okay, so I'm just going to play a little of this track. Right, so what we're hearing right now is the track unaffected. So you see the WAV there at the top, and you can see straight away that I've mixed it a little quiet. I need to bring the level of this track up. So that's my number one concern, because there's nothing worse than if you submit a track to some playlist on Spotify or you get played on the radio, if your track comes in after someone else's that was louder, even if yours is a million times better track, if it's louder, it's gonna sound weak immediately. So we need to bring that level up. And like I say, I'm not an expert at this. What I could do, if I was, is I could go into each of these modules and use the controls, you know, from starting with a completely blank page to start mastering my track. But I don't have those skills, not to that kind of level. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to preset, and I like to use genre-based presets. Sorry, I forgot how to talk. And in here we have a list of presets that are designed to suit different kinds of music. Well, what I do is I completely disregard the genre thing, and I just go through a bunch. In fact, usually I go through pretty much all of them, and I have a listen, and I have a listen to how each one is affecting the track, and then I find one, you know, the one that I think has made the best improvements to the track. When I've found that, then I will go deeper into that particular preset and have a look at what the settings are, and have a look at what it is that's affected my track in that way. And then from there I'll start to tinker with those presets and find something that I really like. So it's kind of a bit of experience, a bit of using presets that somebody far more skilled than myself has put together for us. I'm just going to take this back to the beginning of the track here with this button here. And, you know, just a bit of messing about till it sounds right, basically. I'm being honest. After much tweaking around, I've now arrived at a master in Final Touch that I'm happy with. And it really is a great program. It doesn't do all the work for you, but the presets, they really help you get in the right direction, and they really help you learn something about mastering. You know, I often read things in Facebook groups and places like that where people really sneer at presets, as if, you know, I'm far too knowledgeable and professional to use a preset. But, you know, whatever gets you there, whatever gets you to the result, I would never use a preset and just go, oh, that's it, that sounds marvelous. You know, you've always got to get in and tweak and see if you can make it that bit better. But, you know, we live in an age where there's very little music, there's very little money available for music making. I would love to send my mixed track to somebody to master, but budget does not allow. So, you know, we all have to learn how to do these things for ourselves. Anyway, I think I've digressed a little from what I was going to say. Yes, so the point is, trust your ears. It doesn't matter. If you're trying to master your own track and you're looking at Final Touch and you're like, well, I don't know what this module's really modelled on, and I don't really know how this works, doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter if the controls are labelled in a foreign language that gives you no idea what they do, because at the end of the day, you're a musician. Trust your ears, tweak things around. If you've mixed your track well, then the sound that you're looking for is in there. So just keep messing until you find it. Right, now, my stomach is starting to rumble. I'm starving. The track is finished. I need to wind up this video. But before I do, I just need to say this. I always liked Auria Pro. I always liked it a great deal. But it reached a point where it wasn't really quite stable enough for me to use, because I make music for a living. And I really hope this doesn't sound terribly pompous, but it's my job. And so I need to be able to allocate a certain amount of time to a job, and I've got to be able to achieve it in that time. And so whilst Cubasis 2 liked some features I really liked in Auria Pro, it became the door of choice for me. But, you know, I recently decided I was going to make myself use all the other doors available to me, and you know, force myself to work in them and learn. And I was going to use GarageBand, but I really just, you know, I couldn't be doing with that. So I used Auria Pro for this project, and I'm really glad I did, because whilst I did reach a point where I thought this is just going to be a disaster, I can't get this any further. Now that I'm using the beta, I'm telling you, there's a great version of Auria Pro coming. We are trying our best to flag up all the little bug fixes that need to be done, and everything that can be improved, and they're working really hard on bringing out a great new version of Auria Pro, and I'm really feeling very positive about that. Now, I made a note. What else do I need to say? I need to thank you for watching. If you've watched all the way through all this video, thank you so much for taking the time out to watch. I don't claim to be an expert on anything I'm talking about. It's just a journey through music making that I hope that along the way I've spoke about or shown you something that that's going to be of use to you. Thank you so much. If you have enjoyed the video, then please do give me a like, because I'm a musician. You know, I'm a needy kind of a dude. It makes me feel good if you press like. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you really like the video, then ding my bell so that you get notifications of nonsense I put on YouTube in future. If you didn't like it, then you're probably not watching by now, but really, if you didn't like it, then if it gives you some kind of a thrill that makes you feel like a bigger person, then hit dislike. And I tell you, I will not lose any sleep about that whatsoever. You don't be a musician for this long and not develop incredibly broad shoulders. What else do I need to say? I can't read my own writing. I have no... Oh, yes, right, okay. So the final thing is, during the course of this video, I've used a number of different apps, and in those apps, I have a number of presets of my own that I've used to make this song, and I'm going to make them available to people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a place online, maybe in Dropbox perhaps. I think I can do that, but I'm going to make a folder available to people, and anyone who watches this video is very welcome to go to that folder and steal my presets and use them as you will. Now, talking about presets, I'll just say this, that that like my sound that works for me on my Strat, it's not guaranteed to sound like that on your guitar. If your guitar is quieter or louder, a different kind of guitar, different kind of output. For instance, that sound that I made, earlier on, I plugged in my Les Paul. I just needed to work out a song quickly for a student. I plugged in my Les Paul, and it sounded terrible in that sound, you know. But if you use my sounds as maybe, again, a preset to get you on your way looking for the sound that you're looking for. So, thank you very much, folks. Be good to each other, behave yourselves, and I'll see you with another video soon.